I'd like to make some more videos about this knife, the Huntsman, from the Very Good Knife Company. Took it out today and made a video with some other knives. Bit of a comparative study. Now, you do a comparative study and you realize, well, this knife is like this, that knife's like that, so naturally they're going to do better for different tasks, and then there's a matter of personal preference and so forth. So, to be sure, I'm not trying to say that any one thing is better than any other, but I like the comparative study. I think it's fun. I don't know how well it worked on the video, but I'm sure I can improve on that. So, for me today, I established that really I like this knife. This is the one that I wanted to use for the task at hand, because it could do it. Any of the knives I was carrying could do it, but this was the one that I felt like using. Yeah, I like it a lot. It's got a very nice whippy flick cut to it because it's so lightweight. And so with this long handle and this doorknob of a pommel and that whippy flickiness of it, I could get it done like that. And if I was using this to do the same thing, which I did, I would be chopping the same piece of wood, and then I would switch back and forth, and I found that my cadence was in line with the fact that I would say this knife is about twice as heavy as this one. My cadence was about twice as fast with the other one. So with this one, I'm chop, 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 chop. This one I can be chop, 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 right? And yeah, similarly with this guy, but this didn't really chop so well, the Kephart. Since I got it out, I did oil the handle, and I also got out this knife that at least strongly resembles a Kephart in the blade profile. It has clearly been sharpened so that the etch is nearly gone, but there you can see J. Russell, Green River, stain free. You could see a moment ago, right? Stain free, made in USA. 1884. So yeah, can't tell you anything much about this knife except I just oiled the handle. Found it a few months ago at the trading post, and I thought it was cool. And it is definitely stain free. I had it on a rack in the kitchen with some other knives, and they all went rusty around the back a little bit, and this one didn't. So yeah, I mean, for comparative study now, we get into a comparative study of the user, because I'm a fairly skinny guy. I have some funny dimensions to my body. I've got very long arms, knobbly knees, and this kind of suits my physique, right? I mean, this is more, what is it? You've got cardio and physio, right? This is more of a cardio, and this is more of a physio, This is an American knife. This is for, I see this as being better wielded in the hand of one of these guys whose arms are as thick as my legs, right? And neck is as thick as my waist. And they would be able to flick this, but I don't have the power. So, but I mean, you can chop with this. To my mind, it's hatchet-like in the chopping experience. You can pack a lot of punch into it. So there's really no comparison. There is. I just made one, right? But I figured it was a kind of a goofy comparative study, getting all these different knives out that were so different. I did want to kind of put these side to side because I like Gabe, and I think he's cool. He's kind of like a big bro because he's a woodsman and he's a knife enthusiast, but he's, you know, more experienced, more successful, what have you. But yeah, he designed his woods knife. I designed mine, and but again, I mean, you know, you can just tell by looking at them that they can do similar things, but you know, one is going to be better for chopping down a tree, and one is going to be better for cleaning under your fingernails, by my lights. Okay, I did want to comment that, okay, if we're going to do a comparative study of these two knives, right? Because I encountered a couple of problems. Actually, most recently, I cut myself on the ricasso here of this knife. So that for me is kind of an issue, right? The ricasso here is so sharp now. Now that I know that, I'll avoid it. But in principle, I've never done that before, is by handling a knife, and I put my knife here on this corner here, and it cut a perfect little L into my... So anyway, I would say, okay, that's a little issue with the knife that would be by way of fit and finish. You know, you could clear that up with a piece of fine grit sandpaper in 5 minutes or whatever. Or now I'm unlikely to do the same thing again, but I can't see any use for having a sharp ricasso there. This feature is very interesting, and thus far, although I'm not a big fan of finger guards, it didn't bother me. A commenter on Gabe's channel suggested that this might be a structural issue. They described it as a 90-degree, which it isn't. But, you know, I can see that point, but I'm very unlikely to break this knife, right? Because of that. And it does give you a very strong reinforced finger guard with the micarta on it. So that's a very interesting feature. I quite like it. I had wondered whether I would like that, and whether I might want to modify it, you know, cut it off or cut it down or something. And I might, but thus far I kind of like it. This was a problem for me today, and although I found that it wasn't really an issue using the knife like this to chop, anytime I was holding the knife in this or this kind of position, it wasn't comfortable for me, this pommel. No issue with that skull breaker. That's very well done. It's nicely rounded there. So yeah, that's cool. But this I don't know. So that is interesting for me by way of a comparative study with the Leuku, because the Leuku has this pommel. Similarly, right? It has a big old pommel. And this is not bothersome. This is a big reason why I went for this knife at the end of the day instead of this one, was that I found that just a little bit bothersome. And having this that wasn't bothersome, I just opted for it. It's one reason, I guess. But it also that it's lighter and so forth, I guess. And you see that this, in contra to my knife, has a swayback handle with negative pommel. Right? And how does that work for chopping? How does the knife not fly out of your hand? Well, obviously I use it with a lanyard. However, you can use it without a lanyard, and it doesn't fly out of your hand. And there's a logic here with the swayback handle. It's subtle, but you can see there's a recurve here, and the way that that nestles in there, okay? And then you can put your fingers here and use that with your flick cut. So it might not be for everybody, but I think that this is interesting, yeah? And it is similar in concept then to the end of the Kepa. I don't even need to get this out, right? But yeah, that's a very similar kind of thing there, yeah? No problems. No lanyard hole on this either, but I don't know. I don't think it's going to fly out of your hand with this nice grippy wood. You hold onto it right. And this one, oops, with this file work, or checking, hatching, what would you call it? Jigging? Oh, it looks really cool since I oiled it. I guess it was sat this way up with the UV light for some time. Now we got yin yang. So yeah, this thing very secure in the hand. You know, no, it's brick shape, but with this grip here, I don't think that's going to fly out of your hand. So, but this pommel, you know, with that width on it, this is very comfortable, and it comes to quite a tight curve here, and that curve will sit naturally into the corner of your knuckle, wherever you hold it. There, right? Now this being flat here, it kind of almost wants to sit more on the flat, right? Changes the disposition in the hand, and it somehow, yeah, I find that it's kind of digging in here, right? Now, when I held it, if I held it like this and just held onto it tight, you know, the handle is really good this way, so you can hold onto it up here and take the pressure off here. But that means that this is an encumbrance until you get all the way down there. Then it's great. Then it works really well. It's still not as comfortable as this, to my mind, but you know, trade-offs. So I thought in the end that I'd like to do some more comparative study with this knife, because I think that it is a unique knife, but it has a classic purpose, right? Go out in the woods knife. Do whatever you need to do with this thing. And I have some knives that I think are better for close comparative study. I have shown them both before. This is one of them. I need to clean them. But anyway, this is one. I don't recall the price point on this, but you know, same ballpark. We're talking hundreds of dollars. We're not talking tens. Probably, I think, a little more economical. This is the Brisa Big Muck from Finland. Also pretty unique kind of knife. And I feel like there's some kindred spirit going on in the points area of these two knives. And then one that is really, I'd say, kind of a winner for a comparative study piece with the Huntsman is the William Collins Field Boss, which is also made in the USA. And it's a very similar price point. It's a very similar size, similar weight, similar, you know, projected usage, right? The Huntsman, the Field Boss. And this is a truly great knife. You know, right off the bat right now, if someone came in and at gunpoint obliged me to only keep one of these two knives, right now I would have to go with this one, because it's a known, I know that this knife is absolutely phenomenal. Now, if I had my choice between the three in this exceptionally unlikely hypothetical circumstance, then I'd be in trouble, because I love this thing. It is a way more intuitive blade, and I've had more time with it than I have had with this. And this is a knife that, by William Collins' account, because I heard him say it in a video, in an interview or something, he said that you need to take your time to get used to using one of his knives. And again, you could kind of probably look at it and see why that might be the case. It's Yeah, mistaking that for a finger choil, which I've never done, but you're only going to do that once, if ever. So yeah, I think I'm going to take these three out tomorrow, and I'm going to do some more of this firewood gathering and see how I like them and see how they compare performance-wise. So, providing that I do that, please feel free to come and join and watch again. And thank you for watching this one. And all the best. And.